The rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com.
Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent.
All right. Shalom. Salama. Siemi. Shalom. Greetings to all my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world, whether you're of the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel. You're a Gentile grafted into the house under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. I welcome you this morning. I cannot lie, family. I had some of the best, most restful sleep last night. And generally I do, but you know, when you're dealing in I'm going to say stressful situations, we've all encountered that. It can mess up your sleep pattern. It can mess you on up. It could do some things to you. And you know, I'm just gonna let you know that has been kind of the story. And I had said that last week to our QTWA family as we are kind of taking a little bit of time off. That there are times where you just have to have a break. Now, from this channel, I'm going to tell you this channel is a little bit also of it's my outlet. It is a catharsis of sorts. It is I'm going to say how this channel was, how it had started. It was a therapy session. And I was just inviting everybody into group therapy. You want to get into the mind of a crazy person, of a person that struggled and has gone to the point. And I said, well, Father, I thank you that you broke me. because at that time I wasn't very thankful to be broken. I wasn't very happy to be broken. At that time, I was actually in a position where the Most High was literally changing me from the inside out. And it's funny because I had a conversation last night with one of my good friends up in Atlanta, and he is now away and doing well in his pastoring profession as an awakened Hebrew, as an awakened Israelite, still navigating these churches and the military. Keep in mind. That's why I tell you, I said, please pray for our brothers and sisters in the military right now, because I know what they're going through, and it's hard to articulate that to somebody that may not truly understand that when you're either under a contract or under commission, you don't have and you're not afforded the opportunity to up and quit. And that's called being AWOL. That's called being subject to the UCMJ. That's called being subject to a whole plethora of articles. And they could even say that, a desertion, even they could even say in a wartime situation, a wartime scenario. Well, what's war? When did that happen? You don't even know. You may not have even known when that happened. Look, a lot of things that are done, they're not going to declare it. And if they declare it, you're never going to hear about it. And if you hear about it, then you're not going to be able to get all of the information. That's how this system works. I'm just telling you how the system works. You can believe me, or you don't have to believe me. That's up to you and the Most High. All I'm going to do is every single day, I'm going to come on and I'm going to speak what the Most High has convicted me of that day during my interactions with the Most High. Some interactions are good, some interactions are just plain old ignorant. Some interactions I have to get that on my face and ask the Most High to forgive me and keep me alive, because I know I took years off of my life of being disobedient and all these things because I throw fits in the background. I'm made of flesh. I get angry. I get mad. I'm made of flesh. And it's not the fact that I'm just wanting to be willfully disobedient. When you're going through the process of healing, a process of rebuilding, a process of not just knowing who you are, but knowing who he is. That's why I think a lot of us understand. We forget to understand. Well, the Most High is this, the Most High is that. Okay, I get it. Because you have to be able to love yourself before you can really fully commit to what the design and the plan that the Most High has for you. Because if He turns you around and it's like, bam, there you go, and you're still in that awkward state, you're destined to fail. And the Most High, He doesn't do anything with half measures. He doesn't do anything that fails. He doesn't fail. He doesn't, excuse me. Now, we fail all the time. We fail because we let this thing called flesh get in the way because we are to walk by faith and not by sight. And then when we're required to walk by faith, then when we're seeing all of these things happening, when we're perceiving these things, because why? Because we can't see things going on beyond our perception. So then what does our mind do? Our mind starts to wander. Our mind starts to say this and say that. And then we start to dig into our flesh. And then that's when the enemy is able to come knocking. Oh, okay. I hear him complaining. Oh, okay. I hear him this. Oh, okay. And there are alternative solutions, not the solution that the Most High has. Because what's going on is the Most High lines up the blessings and the miracles to occur. And you know, the funny thing is, I'm going to tell you this. Shout out to Brother Asaph yesterday. And he was putting that in the chat. He said, "Did you know about Ghana in the 17th region?" I said, yeah, yeah. Shout out to Sister Gail over at QTUA, a volunteer with QTUA. She is very active in her travels and activities over to the continent. And, you know, I had come across in a discussion I had with one of our Q2A members, and it was to the point where you know, a lot of what we do, we interact with other organizations. We do that because we're trying to build cohesion. We're trying to work with our brothers and sisters, and we want to be able to fill in the gaps. That's how this thing works. Not everybody knows everything all at once. Even when I was doing things over with ADDI, there are still gaps, and they recognize that. Discussing things with Dr. Ericana, there's gaps. She recognizes it. We all have gaps, but guess what we do? We all come together because understand it's a body, it's a family, it's a unity, it's a people. And so the other day she was saying, Brother Karras, I'm gonna make sure that you get the link and that you can, you know, look at this Ghana diaspora conference. And I said, okay, well, I did get the link, but that was on the last day of school, and I was busy. I was busy getting the grades in, hammering the grades in, because I'm going to tell you this. I am a teacher, and I have and allow a lot of grace to my students, to the point where other teachers say, just give them an F, just fail them. And I give them to the nth hour because it's grace. And my students know that I care about them. And it's not the fact that they want to take advantage. No, it's the fact that I have students that are homeless. It's the fact that I have students that do not have the best home stability, where they're sleeping on couches, where they're sleeping on floors, where they're literally sleeping in cars, where they're being shuffled from aunties to uncles to cousins, where the only device that they have is literally their not even T-Mobile. What is it, like Cricket Wireless, Metro PCS, and they can't do what they need to do because they don't have the necessary resources. And it's not that the families aren't trying to do what they need to do, they're on the bottom of the spectrum because of the demographic resources that's there. So I give these kids a lot of grace because I can only have an empathy because I have not experienced that myself growing up. So I do not know how they're actually working through this environment. And the other teachers that have not experienced it, they do not have that empathy because they really cannot understand. Well, why can't they just get their stuff done? Because you have a student that's half asleep. He wants to learn, he wants to do, but his body just literally cannot handle it. Just being tired. So I digress on that, but I had that text, and that Friday we didn't have that many kids in school, and I did want to join. I could have easily joined, but I was just too engrossed in grades. And when I'm engrossed in something, I like to give and commit, 100%. And again, these kids, I had given up my planning period time, I had given up my lunch time because I told them, I said at noon, I said, we're done. I said, that's it. And Rojo, it is, but you'd be surprised. It's also some of our black teachers too. So-called black, our African American, our Israelite teachers also. Because the reality is the system has gotten so worse. It's become a disaster. It's become a train wreck. Your kids aren't being taught. They're actually just being institutionalized. So when they are not able to, or they do not want to respond to the institutionalization, they will then be in a product of being restricted and institutionalized because the school goes from this school to a transformational to basically juvie. And then from there, it's jail. And I'm literally in the area where Hillsborough County Jail, one of the largest jails in the United States, is so large you can look at it on like True TV or the crime investigation channel. When I had all those cable channels. Oh no, trust me, I applied. I applied to work at Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department as an analyst. I wasn't trying to do any of the beat work because again, people don't understand that's a whole infrastructure. That's a whole economic infrastructure around that area. Where even when I'm driving down the street, it's talking about bail bonds, post your bail here, post your bonds here. You have students coming in and out from juvie. from transformational schools. And it's symbolic of a failed system. And I know that I work in a failed system. I'm not dumb. These aren't my lean on me moments. You do drugs, you do crack. You see what this crack does? I'm not having my Morgan Freeman impersonation of the principal on lean on me. No. But what I do is I show them, listen, you have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to understand how you engage people, and you have to be sincere about how you engage people and not have these attitudes. I said, because when you're seeing these funky attitudes, these attitudes are learned from parents that aren't able to communicate themselves, and therefore they're in a bad situation to where they're not able to have any type of upward mobility because they're not able to explain what it is that they can bring to the table besides having a bad attitude. And if you have a bad attitude, you're never going to learn. And if you don't learn, you're not going to be able to engage. So then the only engagement that you are able to have is with the customer through a drive through where you are servicing that drive through order in less than 60 seconds. Because anything else, it's not for the customer, but it's for the employee. So the employee that doesn't have the ability to mentally engage doesn't get frustrated. Hence the fact that's why they call Americans fat and lazy, dumb, dumbed down, unintellectual. And I'm sorry, but we are become intellectually inferior. And I'm not just saying that, that's what the numbers are stating. The numbers don't lie. Especially when you're getting studies from Sweden. That's why I always like to say, people, get the studies from these other countries because you're not going to get that here in the United States. No, no, it's not going to happen. And then when you're able to get those studies, hey, listen, why would Sweden want to lie? Sweden doesn't want to tell you really the truth. Sweden wants you to make money so Sweden can profit off of IKEA and Volvos. Just saying. We have an IKEA right down the road, right on State Road 60, Adamo Drive. And I gave that example too. And I said, probably some of your parents work on out there. And some of the kids, they nodded and they agreed. No, and the system doesn't fund black schools. They fund them to the point of they're feeding them. That's their funding. Free breakfast and free lunch. Anything else like clubs? Anything else like business technologies, competitions, things of that nature? No. Anything else that provides like a wholesome, worthwhile group adventure outside of the regular school, no, they don't. They kick those kids to the curb. All right, you're up on out of here. So they're being educated, but they don't really have a wholesome education. What about this? What about that? Well, can we compete there? Can you do that? No, no, they don't have. They don't have extracurricular STEM programs. None of that. Where I live at, it's a place called New Tampa. I'm literally right down the street. I'm going somewhere with this. Please, please, please stay with my little bit of a monologue because I'm going somewhere with this. Right down the street, there's a place, a middle school, and a high school. The high school's a international baccalaureate business school. Each school has different things for their STEM, for their business. Back a couple of years ago, my daughter, who's now a senior in high school, she was accepted to into the um, Dr. Kiran Patel school, and those are your springboard schools to you're not just getting like college preparatory, but basically when you go to those schools, you are at a 2 year like AA associate's degree. Then you're able to, yeah, Middleton and Young, yes, absolutely, because we have some of the kids going to Middleton. Middleton is a STEM school. It is absolutely. It's in the hood though, but it's a STEM school. It's in the hood. Karan C. Patel, for my son and daughter to be accepted, it was, um, they had to write their little essays. They had to do this and do that. And of course, they got accepted. I mean, you know. And one of the things when my kids got there, they said, Dad, this is horrible. This is hard. So they convinced me first because I am the academics focused. I am. And I said, for real? And I'm like, for real? And it's and my son is he's more he was always on the sports, and it's like, Dad. Now keep in mind my son is good. He's like, Dad, um, they don't even want me to play soccer there. I was like, what? Now keep in mind when he said that, he had already tried out. He was trying to help on out to because he's a leader. Like my son is a leader, so I laugh because I'm like he gets that from me. That those are the traits, and so he was trying to help and direct people because he's trying to see how the team will start to shape up. And he said, Dad, the person pulled me aside and he's like, he's only about a couple years. The way my son said it, he's only in his like early, he's like maybe 23, 24 years old. And I don't even think he's ever played soccer, Dad. He's trying to tell me I'm not going to make the team. I said, what? Keep in mind when he played at Wharton that season, he was one of the top scorers in Hillsborough County. And when you're talking about soccer, there's only about 4 or 5 counties in the state of Florida that's soccer. That's obviously your Miami-Dade, Broward. That is obviously your Jacksonville, and then your Orlando, basically Orange County, Osceola. And then really it's Hillsborough County here in the Tampa Bay area. So I laughed and I said, okay, I get it. And one of the things, and it's not to be, it wasn't to be racist, but my son and my daughter kind of expressed the situation that was going on there, because the reality is that Patel is a school that is based on um a higher demographic of people. And if you can understand the word Patel and the demographic origins of that said name, then you can start to see what that demographic shapes up to. So by and large, let me just explain this. By and large, here in the Tampa area, especially in my area, whole bunch of South Asians, specifically Indians. And what ends up happening is this: they congregated to this area. We back in they literally kind of named this area back in, it was about almost 20 years ago. They said, this is going to be like the hub outside of India, which it became. Which it literally became. This was the first area that hosted a Bollywood award, and that was because you had a family that is, they built literally like it's ungodly in terms of a complex the size of Busch Gardens. I kid you not. Right down the street from Busch Gardens, where they spent hundreds of millions of dollars because that is the influence that they had in the city. And even in my own neighborhood, my own neighbors. But the reality is that a lot of the people that are here, they anchor baby like crazy. It is. You want to talk about birth rates? Haha, guess what? They are well above replacement rate up here. Oh, Zoomer Doomer. You knew exactly where I was going. Oh boy. Zoomer Doomer says, here in the UAE, I'm meeting more Indians who studied and worked in the tech space. They are quietly leaving the US. All right. And yes, they do. They do that. They do lock everyone out. And the problem that I had said, as a matter of fact, it was funny. Red and I literally had a conversation about this last year. Last year. And it was interesting because, and I pray Red doesn't have any offense. It's actually a believe it or not, this is actually a testimonial, because back in the day, back in 2023, Red had been laid off. And Red is good. I'm telling you, Red is top of the line in terms of his of what he does. Red is that good. And Red is that good. Shoot. You can you can ask Jacoba and Tayu. Two or three witnesses right there. Red is that good. You can ask QTUA. Two or three witnesses right there. He offered his services to QTUA, and I'm telling you, that was about $500,000 worth of services that he offered. Even ask some of the folks here. He is that good. Red had worked for an a firm. They were located in India, or excuse me, they were here in the U.S. They had a Department of Energy contract, and they are located literally in India. If you didn't know how your nation is sold out, it's sold out. Well, Red was let go from the job, and you have to have a certain background check, which he passed. Everybody could, we believe it or not, we pass these background checks. You realize that a lot of our people are actually awake up in the government. That's why they don't go after us like they could go after us. It's not like a big like, oh, it's a COINTELPRO conspiracy. Because you realize they lost that narrative. It's kind of like, okay, well, most black people know who they are. Just don't say anything. That's how they've neutralized that. Well, you know who you are anyway. What can we do about it? that is that's what's happened. That is the case. And what ended up happening was, you know, um, of course, when he worked with the Indians or the Indian owned um, company, when they went through hard times, he was the first one let go. And you could tell because when you're on LinkedIn and things of that nature, you could start to see the comments from folks of, yeah, I just got let go of this job and I knew that they were going under. So you could start to see all the people, starting to gripe about things. Because when they start letting go of actual good people, then everybody's work suffers or performance suffers. And it was funny because one of the things I had stated to Red, I said, watch. I said, they're locking out because the what ended up happening was it wasn't just Red that was let go. He was one of the first ones to be let go. But then they started to let go of white folks. I pray you all see where I'm going with this. And I said this to Red. I said, Red, I said, watch, they're gonna start going after these Indians. And I said, and I cut in these discussions because I know Garth was in on some of these discussions too. And I said, watch, there's going to be kind of the order of precedence and how they're going to start going after people. And let's just be honest, they were going after first the Hispanics, the Latinos. They came after then, black folks, right, Haitians, Somalis, and now they're going to go after the professional class, quote unquote professional class. it's I laugh, but it's true. Zoom to your doom says, if you don't have an endorsement from a Sing, that recruiter will give you a ring. That's the truth. That's the truth. I was stating this to Red. I said they're gonna go after them, but they're gonna go after them as part of the last, and then after they go after them, that's when they're gonna go after professional black folks. Those that have a profession, an education, and I laugh because I said that's the cutting off the sickle, right? from the harvest. Let each one go to their what? Own country. So when you're looking at the word, we don't necessarily see how the word is defined until we see how things are happening. And I'm saying that, and I'm telling you, it's interesting how they're trying to do all of these things all at once. You got Jeffrey Epstein. You have a supposed implication by Trump himself, and blah 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 blah. We're gonna change H-1B rules. We're gonna start to denaturalize people. We're gonna start to do this. Amazing how the judge held up the H-1B rule. Now you understand why you see Modi and Putin were hugged up a couple weeks ago, less than 10 days ago, and all this other stuff, and they were mad. They're retaliating, but they're retaliating because they can't afford them here. They can't afford the Indians here. Do you see what's happening? Oh, you want to get your H-1B process? Guess what? That's $100,000. No company's going to do that. Nope. $100,000 or $30,000 to implement this AI. It takes your job and takes 5 other people's jobs. I think I'll go with that savings. And maybe, just maybe, I'll hire a Caucasian just so they can be on the payroll. What does your job consist of? I don't know. I just kind of sit there. I answer some emails that I really don't answer. Have you noticed they're not going to tell you what they do? Well, I can't. Oh, why? They don't do anything. And they're not doing anything because what it is as long as you give them a paycheck, now they're good. Well, I'm highly qualified. I could do this. I could do that. But when the deal goes down, they don't. Oh man, I was gonna try to look at that. I was having some problems, and then I take a look at it 30 seconds later. Have you done this, and this, and this? Oh, yeah, I was thinking about that. Well, then why'd you do it? This isn't a I'm just going to bash Caucasian folks. It's not. It is a symptom of the system. And now the system is cannibalizing. And folks that were here thinking that they were going to partake of the fruits of a system of oppression are now realizing what we've been talking about as this system is falling apart. When I'm looking at LinkedIn, they're building up all of their places: Hyderabad, Islamabad, Calcutta, New Delhi. Yeah, they know it's not great, but guess what? They're bringing on over what they've been doing as engineers over in the United States, over in the West, and they're building that thing up. Yep, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do that. Okay, modernization programs underway. It's not all about just making money and being rich, especially if you can't flush your toilet and you don't know if that water is cross polluting and cross contaminating your incoming sources. And that's not being treated. That's what they're doing now. They're finally understanding that they got to treat their water. They're finally understanding that they got to treat their trash. They're finally understanding how to filter different things on out and how to have treatment plants and how to do this. It may not be the best, but it's necessary. This is why you can't have corruption, because then it literally starts to kill you. Ghana's now learning that the hard way with water that you can't even drink. And that is a very sad consequence, to where, hey, just come on in here, and get all the gold. And guess what? They did that to all the nations. Isn't that the stupidest thing ever? Get all the gold. We're going to pay you $2 a day. Stupidest thing ever. And now they're finally realizing, wait, you mean to tell me that black folks, our brothers and sisters over there, they knew how to handle all this? You know, as I wildly digress from my tangent, the Ghana diaspora has provided for the 17th region, and that's great. I'm glad. That's great. That's awesome. Wow, hallelujah. But one of the things that I look at is, what does that truly mean? See, when I was talking about yesterday of funds and high level funds for these opportunities that I'm engaging in, and not just Ghana, but also Burkina Faso and beyond. One of the things that I don't see are any type of subsidies. BYOS, bring your own subsidies. Well, we want you here, but we want your money here. Well, what if we don't have any money? What if we don't have the liquidity because we're in a financial crisis? Okay, that really works. Is it that you really want us here, or is it that the fact that, again, you now see a financial crisis that's now affecting Ghana? Because a couple months ago, when I'm saying, hey, we have a financial crisis, brother, it's all good when you pay money. We're having a liquidity crisis on over here. Brother, it's all good. When you get the money. See, to me, the only reason that you have that right now, especially at this time, is literally because they ain't got no money. Recall all of the 20 plus diplomats from these African countries. And what's ended up happening? Why are they recalled? They're not recalled just to be recalled. They're recalled because these other nations are trying to figure on out through the U.S. ambassadors, when are these funds coming? You're back online, right? This government shutdown ended what, a little over 6 weeks ago, right? When are those funds coming into our hands? And it's not the fact that, oh, it's any day now. No, we need to know now. We're relying on these things. We need to know now. Isn't it funny? All of a sudden, 17th region pops up. Hey, let's spread the nets wide open. Let's see how many African Americans we can capture. My question is, to do what? Because they know that when you spread a net like that, you're just going to capture people that don't have a plan, that don't have a network, that have no type of conceptualization of what they want to do, how they're going to have their investment works, how they're going to have their strategy being employed, what stakeholders, what shareholders, what engagements that they need to do, what legal contracts that they need to have in place. They don't have it. And guess what? It's going to fail. But that's what they're planning for, because they're planning to drain wallets, just as Brother Asaph had said. They are designing all these programs in Ghana to get into our wallets. Absolutely. The reason I even said something yesterday, I don't like to say stuff like that. I don't even like to hint at anything that I do, because then you have people, well, well, yes, they do. Zoom to your doom. These African nations have the funds of special economic zones. Neo diplomacy is the key to unlock these subsidies. They do, however, these special economic zones are not targeted towards the African diaspora. Let me let you in on a very interesting secret. They're actually targeted towards individuals or corporations that have a black face but a European Caucasian organization. Sorry, that's just how it goes. Hate to burst some bubbles on up here. So the question is, what games have changed? What's changed? Now, do I understand how the game goes? Absolutely. That's why I move a certain sort of way. Because you have to be diligent in how you are operating within those confines. I could have $50 million. I will not use that all at once. I wouldn't even say that I have a breath of that. $5,000. What can I do? Excuse me. Brother. Five, that is an insult. How much is that? Because you want to know why? You know that they literally give away land to these foreigners. They give away land. They just want the foreigners there just so they can say that they have foreigners there. Because when they say that all this money goes to and goes back into their community, no, it does not. And I'm like, where? Where? The roads are terrible. The infrastructure is bad. Outside of Accra, you ain't going anywhere. So where? Tell me. Even when you get to Greater Accra, don't let it rain. Don't be caught in a car in a little junky car that's not able to even be driven, or you will be stuck on the side of the road. Trust me, I know it's happened to me a couple times, even being there. Stuck in the mud. And so now, am I appreciative of the fact that they're trying to recognize things? Oh, I definitely am. But I want us to understand why is it that they're doing it right now? Because it's a get back. What special incentives do you have? Well, what if I came with you with a business plan, and this business plan had this, and we can show you how this thing goes. We can show you how this works. We can get you this. Blah 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 blah. Oh, we're not really entertaining that. Why not? Because to be quite honest, it may not, and I just say it may not really be taken that seriously to begin with. And I say it may. Well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? The moment that you have concessions, the moment that they talk about not just a partnership program, but the moment that they say, in this partnership program, you can have access to this special financing. If you talk to the bank, you have this, you have that. Because trust me, you don't think I don't have eyes and ears in important places there in Ghana? Better believe I do. If there was something of significance, that avenue would have already been worked upon, which always begs that has me beg to differ. What do they want from us? What is it that they want us to do? Part of the leading issue that I've always experienced from our people, which is it's a good concern. I do not take that away from any of them. They always say Africa has a lot of scams. How do we prevent that scam from happening to us? And I explain it to them, and I give them the model, and I give them the understanding. And then when I explain how we do this, how this works, how that works, how this then works, how this legal framework goes into effect, it's great to have and to know a lot of Ghanaians, a lot of Burkinabe, a lot of Malayans, a lot of Nigerians, because the relationship is everything. This relationship has been established. This relationship has been established. This relationship has been. You better establish those relationships before you provide any type of money or funding. If you don't have a relationship before you have any funding, then you know what you are? You're a credit card. I really feel bad for our people that go on over there and then they go on over there and they have the funds and oh, I could just do this because I got the funds. I could just do that because I got the funds. No, they see it, they smell it. I was a different funk because you want to know why? Because I didn't have no funds. Oh, this Negro is genuine. This Negro's eating the side street food. This Negro's doing this. This Negro's eating the coconuts, eating the toasted bananas. This Negro's tracking down family members for us here in the United States. Because that was a relationship funding in a non-traditional manner. If you have funds, man, I'm not doing any of that. Man, let me go to here. Let me do this. Let me do that. Then you're not genuine. And then when you're not genuine, everybody else can see that you're not genuine. And it's gonna be like, man, forget you. We're just gonna run your pockets. And then you're gonna get mad, and then you're gonna be like this and that, and you're gonna say, "Ah, it was such a scam." Blah blah blah. And the people that go there, they get mad, and that's how they always react. It was such a scam. And then I asked, well, why was it a scam? How do you feel it was a scam? And then I asked them this. Well, how did you interact with them? How did you spend your time with them? How did you spend your day with them? Very important. Did you eat what they ate? What? When you got breakfast, did you eat their breakfast or did you eat the local breakfast? Well, I ate my traditional Western meal. Okay. Maybe next time eat the local breakfast. But that may not agree with my stomach. Okay. Maybe next time take some Tums. Because you got to establish that relationship at all costs. And you establish it just by being genuine, just by eating the food. Yep, and I had that too. I had plenty of charcoal, brother Asaph. You better believe it. These are some of the things that we think because we have been convenienced here in the United States. It's a convenience. Nah, you better go to that street vendor and see what they have in that little glass menagerie case of what they're heating over. The charcoal stove. You better pray over that food and let it rip. And then that's when they see you're a person that we can talk to. And that makes literally all the difference in the world. Those little subtle things. A lot of us, we don't know how to do the hints and the clues. Let me tell you, they used to know how to do the hints and the clues, but guess what? Their wisdom and understanding, it got destroyed. They're done. They went on out there, and I could tell in the last about 10 years, Zoom to your doom says, yep, I'm working on a project in East Africa. If you ain't riding bodas, eating kombuchari, I hope I'm saying that right, or haggling with the fruit lady and remembering her M-Pesa pay bill number, you're seen as a walking lick. You sure are. It is something. Now, I'm not saying that I'm discouraging building. Oh, absolutely not. And to be quite honest, this is a little bit more. This is actually more encouraging, believe it or not, because I have some phone calls that I have to make after this, because this is very encouraging. And now it's it now shows to the government, put your money where your mouth is at. But more importantly, it also shows to our community, well, remember, people are saying they don't believe that they have our best interest on out there on the continent. Well, let's test that and let's see. Let's test it and let's see, because I I pray that this time next year, as I'm here on Covenant Awakenings, that there will be a different story, a different scenario going on. And I could say, man, what a difference a year makes. It was rough getting this project off the ground. What a difference a year makes. This is this is this, and this is this. What a difference. But with a lot of our people, those are the nice to haves. But again, it's hard to think about those nice to haves because in reality, we are here living in a survival mode for the most part, for most of us, by and large. We're here in survival mode. So how can you truly market to a people? Now, when we're not in survival mode, oh yeah, we have ideas for days. We could generate ideas and not just generate ideas. We can have everything diagrammed, wireframed, you name it. Hey, this has this input here. This input will produce this output there. This output should do this. This should have that. This will be the cost here. This should be a return on investment there. This could be a unit price here. Blah blah blah. We could do all that. That's not a big deal. But what is the big deal is when we are so drawn into the fact that they have us looking here, looking there, seeing this here, seeing this there. We come into a situation where we are just in a survival mode that doesn't have you thinking. It doesn't have you rest or relaxed. You're so stressed out about your conditions and your circumstances that you can't see any other way. You can't look past any other way. That's actually not living. For a few years, I had been on that. And Sister Shar, she had to help me break that. But Karis, you need to do this, this, and this, this, and this. Your ideas, they're good, but you need to do this, this, and this, and this. And I could only focus so much. Because the way that they have us here to where they want us to feel as though we're drowning and that we're constantly drowning, drowning in debt, drowning in bills. How do you even survive? You can't. If you notice now, their idea to really drown us, do you realize that that's backfired and now they're drowning themselves? Do you all know that that was the whole point of debt, was just to keep us indebted? Oh, see, those Negroes, those niggas, their eyes are insatiable. So just put it in front of them. They'll want it. Put it in front of them. What was what forgot to be told to them in their back doors, in their homes, was that they were not supposed to fall for the okey doke that they were doing to us. And they fell for the okey doke. And they said, you know what? Well, we can just do a little bit of this. You know what? Look, we're the reserve currency. We can print whatever we want. You want to know what? No, nobody could ever touch us. You want? And then they started to drink their own Kool-Aid. $40 trillion later. We weren't supposed to be in debt. They were supposed to be in debt. We weren't supposed to be in this. They were supposed to be in this. We were supposed to live within our means. It was the greedy black people that were supposed to live outside their means and then be indebted servants in debenture. Because we were supposed to have and be in want in all things. That was the game here. That was the curse. And again, as these curses are reversing, guess what? Now understand they're having issues. Am I the only one that's going through this? How come I feel like I'm the only one that's going through this? No, we've been going through this. But we don't care because we knew that you were going to break the system. Because when this was breaking us, y'all didn't care. But now that y'all are being broke, now all of a sudden y'all have to care, or y'all are caring. Is this what you had to go through? These crazy credit card rates? Is this what you had to go through with all this? I can't even think about buying a home. Oh, okay. You're now seeing the American nightmare. Congratulations. You want to know how bad it is? They're literally now having to reshape, and again, they're trying to change up the rules. Like I said, they're trying to change up the rules. Well, it's not going to affect us that much because we now have this rule. We're now doing it this way. We're now reporting this way. Look, do you see the GDP, the 4.3% growth? Yeah, I'm sure it's growing when you're now laying everybody off. And I don't even think that those numbers are real. I don't even believe the numbers. They're not real. Because then in another couple months, then they'll revise all that stuff down in January, February. And then what they'll say is, oh, that was something that Biden did and blah, blah, blah. Earlier today, I was watching Times of India. I like watching Times of India. No nonsense, very little slant. They give both accounts. You had, again, Russia and China. They were in the UN talking about Venezuela. They're in the UN. They have to argue legal legitimacy. Because once they argue legal legitimacy, then especially in the case of Russia, Russia then gets legal legitimacy through its Duma. So it's going to go to the Duma probably sometime next week or probably sometime later this week. And they're going to put that case and they're going to say, all right, we're proposing that we go into the Caribbean ourselves and that we have an interdiction ourselves to help on out Venezuela. And guess what? China will also do that in their Chinese Liberation Party legislation stuff. That's how this will work. And then now they have the legal, ethical, legislative, and moral foothold to not declare war, but to be able to have a military interdiction to ensure that the freedom of movement is not impeded by an aggressor nation. That's what the U.S. made itself. The U.S. made itself a piracy nation. And they had strong words alluding to piracy. Piracy, piracy. Hey, we did it on the international stage. And now with the international stage, it doesn't work. It's broke because the U.S. co opted everything. Now we have to do it here. And now we're going to have to settle this dispute by means of warfare. I had this discussion with my spiritual brother in Yahusha last night. And I said, what do you think now? You now had international law, and now you're going to have domestic law. So then how do you settle that law? When everybody comes through with the domestic policy, whose policy wins? And he answered it. He said, whoever's policy reflects on the battlefield, it's through might. Might is right. See, they've had that situation where might has been right for years. Now here it comes. So something that people would have thought unimaginable. That will never happen. That can't happen. I don't see that happening. It's happening. And you know, the funny thing is, I laugh because in the UN, you know, the US, you have to keep from laughing because you have to keep laughing because it's sad. It is very sad. They're still going over that narcotics, blah, blah, blah nonsense because they realized how bad it sounded. They realized how stupid it sounded. Oh, it's the narcotics, it's Train de la Agua or Cartel de Soles, or the cartel that the CIA made up. Hilarious. Hilarious. Something from the 80s that the CIA made up. Oh my goodness. It sounds like we're on a really messed up episode of Miami Vice. Isn't that right, Tubbs? Do, 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 do. Put in that the electrical guitar. High speed chase on US 1 in the Key West. Oh, or a really messed up game of GTA. GTA, Caribbean San Andreas. There you go. There's GTA 6 right there. You know, they have the subs. That's what it was. Those subs and those fighter jets. Goodness. You do clandestine operations from Key West to float over to GTA Caribbean Andreas. Oh, I'm doing a CIA mission. You get on a little prop plane, you're jumping on out with the parachute. It's so lifelike. Man, I'm always having a tough time with the regime change mission. I've looked at all the Discord forums to try to figure out how to get it done. Only one person's done it. Oh my goodness. It's not funny to be in these high stakes games because, again, what type of armaments does Venezuela have? What type of armaments does Cuba have? I hope that next month I'm not saying hola, esta me, Covenant Awakenings. Broadcasting de Tampa, Florida. Hola, ¿cómo está? ¿Qué pasó? Está caliente. Porque la guerra de Estados Unidos y Venezuela por la secesión. La fuerza de ocupar, ocupado. Oh my goodness. It's a live from Walmart. Now I play favorite Barachamu, Musica. I will vote for Donald Trump. Este es mi música favorito. Oh. Oh my goodness. I don't make chicken and rice anymore. My new dish is pollo y arroz. No black eyed peas and rice. Esta es negro peas e arroz. Frijoles. Negro frijoles e arroz. Gol. Oh. All I know is when they say corre, corre, that means run. Andele, andele, mame, iga, iga, oh. I would make a run south of the border, pero mi border is la mer de Golfo de Mexico de America. Oh, y'all laugh. Look, we can laugh, but that's what in the UN they were measured with words, especially with what you had with Russia and China. Now they were measured with words because they understood, technically speaking, they could have said this is an act of war. But if they had said that, then it would have been okay, you now have to stand on it's an act of war. So then what are you going to do? To an out for an ally that is actually in the midst of an act of war. Which this is an act of war. You don't have a blockade on a country. Does anybody remember the Spanish Armada? You know, that thing happened, especially with the British. What ended up happening? A basically a bad storm came through, sunk the vessel, sunk the fleet. This is an armada. This is a blockade. This is literally an act of war. It is a cutting off of an economic vitality. If you were to do this against the US dollar, what would they call this? They call this an act of war. You can't do that. We're perceiving this aggression as an act of war. I'm trying to understand this. It says, Kara, sir, is it not so that America looks as Germany formerly did by the same peoples today who are being down or bringing down the America? Um, I I would say yes and yes. Look, it's the same thing that you saw pre World War II. Pre World War II, what ended up happening? Germany went into Poland. Hello. Economic collapse. It's here. It's just that they're not going to want to tell you it's here. So before you have more latent stages, basically, before it can be seen en masse. Well, what do you do first? You then first have to invade another country. Because now you're now trying to create the substitutes for what you are losing. They've lost stuff. They've lost stuff in this BRICS global campaign effort. Remember Trump was saying he was going to destroy BRICS. And I said this here. I said, no, the problem is that's what he's saying because BRICS is actually destroying the United States. I said this on this channel. You can look it on up. I said this on this channel. As soon as he said that, I said, no, it's not. I said it's destroying the United States, and he's saying that because of how it is destroying the United States. Remember, he was saying he was going to go after the relationship with India and blah, 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 blah. And that didn't happen. And guess what? India and Russia signed another pact, another deal last week. And now what's Trump doing? He's going after H-1B visas. Because why? All of a sudden it came through judicial review that the H-1B visa law is held up. Do you see how lawfare goes? Do you see how all this system works? They're showing you literally how the system works. So anytime anybody says, "Oh, well, you know the government's going to do this and the laws are going to do that and blah blah blah," it's all fake. It's all fake. They're in desperation mode. So guess what? They have to show you their hand that they've been playing for these last now 400 years. Sorry. Isn't it amazing to now see the post-mortem on this? To now get the understanding on this, to get the real analysis in a near real time event? You can't make this up. It's like a movie with the worst acting possible. It's a B movie. It's an Amazon Prime um original movie. Like Nazi zombies and on the moon. With dinosaurs. I'm sorry, there is actually an Amazon Prime movie that is themed out just like that. It's horrible. Another ASAT says, Covenant Wigs, we've done so much work on this between the both of us that we are being seen in universities, but they don't want to talk about it. All right, that's cool. You think that they're going to want to talk about it? They're under siege right now. Under siege. And we're not talking about Seagal taking over pirates. Do you know that Seagal is now a Russian citizen? Let me get this straight. Let me get this straight. Are we about to have Under Siege 3? Watch Ben. What was his name? Was it Michael Seagal? Ben Seagal? What was I forgot the first name. Watch him counter U.S. aggression of piracy and Under Siege 4 from Russia with Love. Steven Seagal, thank you. Oh, if you can't tell me that that was not predictive programming, that's a classic example of predictive program right there. Boy, I tell you, that's a classic example. America is now a rogue nation, and they can only use Steven Seagal to break the blockade. Oh man, oh man. Either that or marked for death. Interesting. Interesting. It's, he said him or Michael Jai White. Michael Jai White hadn't had a blockbuster role since Spawn. I don't know what he done did in terms of him not going shopping at a Diddy party. I don't know what he done did. Expendables 4 or Expendables. There you go. Oh, yep. Very interesting. Bruce Lee Award. Brother Gar says he won the Bruce Lee Award. There you go. They just don't want it. They just didn't want him to have his come up and be better than Chuck Norris. I could see. I could see another Delta Force movie coming. Dang. He said Tyler Perry movies took his manhood. Wow. I didn't say that, but man. Boy, oh boy. But isn't that funny though when you're seeing all of these things going on? What do they always say? Well, there's supposed to be what, a civil war? There's supposed to be this or that. What was that predictive program in the video games? Look, I'm going to tell you this. I had said this, and we were talking about this a little bit a while ago, right? When we are talking about the video games, predictive programming, modern warfare, all that good stuff. Why is that? America's getting poor. And when America's getting poor, there's a couple different things that's going to happen. But ultimately, it does end up in fighting. I said this out on my conversation yesterday. And a lot of people think that it's going to be so easy, so cut and dry, blah, 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 blah. Remember, I said yesterday, I said, mark my words. You're going to start to see Europe. They're going to pull back from the U.S. in the worst way. And they're going to start to declare who we actually are. It's going to come from Europe. And Europe will just nicely and calmly say, well, we always knew this truth. We just weren't allowed to say it. Because Europe still needs the resources of Africa. Now, you also have Ghana. Ghana is it's not the first one, but it is taking after what you have seen with, isn't that amazing? 2 months later, you have Ghana doing something that is on the scale of what you saw with Burkina Faso. Then the question is going to be who's going to be next. Because once Ghana goes, there's going to be another couple of other regional bodies that will then be singing the same page. Will that come from Ethiopia? Will that come from Tanzania? Will that come from Rwanda? Will that come from Cameroon? Will it come from Senegal? And it could come from all of them. But I guarantee you, this is really the biggest dilemma now that the European Union will have. It's time to either cut off the lie or you're going to die from the lie. I guarantee you that is what has taken place behind the scenes with these diplomatic overtures. Or excuse me, not overtures, but these I would say more covert. If you want to have access to these resources again, you're going to have to come out with the truth. The truth of who we are, the truth of who they are. And you're going to have to bring out every receipt that you all try to hide. You want to know how crazy that is? That's literally giving that person a loaded weapon and that round, that ammunition, that projectile, for lack of better terms, it has truth written on the casing. And Africa is handing that over to the Gentile nations, the European nations. And that thing is loaded in the chamber. And they're telling them, put this thing to your head and squeeze the trigger and take this shot of truth. Because you're actually not self deleting, you're now just curing yourself and you're destroying the lie. I don't mean to be so graphic, but I pray that you all understand that graphic. And they're being forced to do that. I think I stated something like this a couple of years ago. Resource management. The resources will cause them, and lack of resources will cause them to have to give up the lie when they're not able to have the resources of the continent. Question is that a blockade that they're doing over in Venezuela, or is that just a blockade to make it look as a full, or are they forward projecting their defense to make it look like a blockade? I would say that they would be forward projecting their defense. Because the blockade will it was always destined to fail on that one. Excuse me. Now, what a lot of people don't like to discuss and get an understanding of is simply this. What do you think the Gentiles will do? See, as I was discussing this yesterday, it was more of on a humorous note. I said it's kind of like being the Gentile whisperer, old Gentile whisperer peril, or excuse me, parable. He that sees and cannot do will close eyes and sit in the fire of the house burning. That was from a um, circa 21st century Negro scholar, Carus Fuchsius, in the book of Carus Fuchsius. Carus Fuchsius say, he that eat too much have a stomach ache. But I want you to really sit there and understand this because that is a sentiment. Now, the only reason that they would be mobilized to do something is because of shame and embarrassment. The only reason that they don't really have shame and embarrassment is because they really seem to think that they still have that international clout. They don't care about the global south. They don't care about the global south at all. What America cares about the most is what Europeans say. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? Did I lose anybody on that one? The only thing that America and the Americans care about is what Europeans say. Oh, I would say this. Let me clarify this a little bit better. What Europeans think of them that is actually being stated. See, when people talk about white supremacy, global white supremacy, blah, 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 that all goes out the window. That's all noise. It's noise. You clearly heard that from JD Vance. You clearly heard that from Turning Point. You clearly heard that from all of those other places. But again, what convicts the Caucasian European here in the United States are other Europeans, i.e., when Europe is squeezed by the lack of resources from the continent and they are forced to expose the truth. And they bring 100%, 1,000% receipts. Europe will survive. They already know all that. They already realized all that. Understand, you only get a little bit of a prism of the actual understanding of Europe. We do here in the United States. They know who we are. But when they are confronted with the lack of resources, at the end of the day, Europe is Europe. Sorry, it is. It's the truth. End of the day, Europe is Europe. It's not to make it sound like it's some, magical place or blah, blah, blah. It's not. I've been to Europe a couple times. It's not. The moment you're cutting them away from resources, the moment that you're cutting them away from what they need to survive, it's going to be a lot more than just potatoes and sheep being dumped in roadways. No, don't give me a time frame. Don't even give a time frame. But I'm going to say this: it's sooner than later. Exactly, brother ASAP. It is the value. Because why? Because their value would be, well, nobody wants to do business with us, and we don't have that leg. Now you're starting to understand. Here's the reality of this. It's a deeper thing that's going on here than what people are saying with Greenland and everything else. Because do you not think that America knows that its days are numbered? Matter of fact, they know the word, they know the scripture. This place's days are numbered. It's just that how do you understand, or how do you get to, well, how is their days numbered? I don't know. I don't. No, 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 no. They're showing you the prescription for that. They're showing you the formula for that. It's just that what a lot of people don't do, they don't actually analyze it and reverse engineer and have the understanding, oh, this is what they're doing. Because they're going to tell you everything is good, 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 good until, well, dang, why is there a big old mushroom cloud right there? You see what you see? That's how this thing happens. The reality is that you're now witnessing, we all are now witnessing Europe in free fall. Europe is literally getting cut away from Ukraine. Ukraine was to really be the sacrifice to Russia, so then Europe can have access to funds via agreements from Biden. That didn't last. And now Europe understands they got the okey doke. Oh, we got to get our armies mobilized. They ain't got no armies. We got to get this mobilized. No, they don't. No, they don't. I'm telling you, they don't. They're getting modernized. No, not really. Their whole plan for NATO was we wait for the U.S. to do everything. That was their NATO plan. That was their NATO doctrine. U.S. does everything, and then we just kind of split. We split the difference. This is hilarious. I'll never forget it. I worked in the coalition back in 2013-14 timeframe. This is when they were trying to get the coalition together to do the train and advise and equip and assist and all that other stuff. I was sitting in on a meeting. I snuck on in. I was just kind of in the back row, just taking a look and listening to see how things were being formulated, because this was the counter ISIS mission that they were trying to then formulate with the global war on terrorism counterparts, cohorts. And I would say, due to, national security matters, I will not disclose certain things. I mean, listen, a brother isn't trying to get disappeared. You know what I'm saying? Trying to not get disappeared. But the U.S. was looking to have their partners because they were planning. Okay, we're going to go here, we're going to do there, we're going to look at this area. It's going to be a little bit more forward. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I never forget this. I never forget this. These generals in the coalition army or with the coalition, they said, nope, we're not going to go that far up front. We're not going to get that close to the contact line. We're going to steer. We're going to stay here. And it was frustrating because the planners were saying, no, part of this plan is we need to have you all up here with us so we can show that we have this global front in fighting and defeating ISIS. And them generals said, nope, that's not going to happen. That's not our job. I looked with bewilderment and I'm like, that's not their job. It's not going to happen. I was like, who do they think they are? Because I honestly didn't know and understand at that time that that's literally not what was agreed upon. There are certain things that had already been agreed upon. They're just there to clean up the mess and divvy out the spoils to be included in the spoils. At that time, I didn't realize that. I was like, oh. It always concerned me, but then later when I started to realize things, oh, that's what's happening. See, if you didn't know what is happening in this administration, the Europeans are really feeling a certain sort of way because they're not being included in the divvying up of the spoils. And on top of that, they're really feeling a certain sort of way because they look as though they have been weakened to the point that they're about to be in conquest. And if you've noticed what the rhetoric had been with Greenland, oh, they're not taking care of the people are not in good shape and blah, blah, blah. Well, if they say that for Greenland, then guess what? They're now building up the argument, oh, well, they're going to say that for Europe and parts of Europe. And now they have to wonder and understand, is this the deal that they cut with Russia? You all get this, I'll take this, and the United States takes that. Have you all started to understand that? Have you all started to understand why they say the U.S. for Denmark, the U.S. is part of their, it's a national threat? I didn't say it. The Denmarks did. The Danes did. The Denmarks, the Danes. Because what else are they going to take? Are they going to take Norway? They could take the Brits. We already own the Brits. Sorry, brother Asaf, but not me. I mean the U.S. Let's just call it what it is. The French, Spain, and the Portuguese will have. They may put up a little bit of a resistance, a little bit. I think the Germans will definitely put up a resistance. Swedes, maybe not so much. But can you imagine that? Can you imagine a Europe that has been sold out under this deal? A Europe that has been basically virtually wiped away via the loss of resources. And that's happening every day. Brother Asaph, Sister Chantel, if y'all in the chat, am I lying? Anybody over there in Europe, am I lying? I know this thing reaches globally, especially in parts of Europe. Am I lying right now? And you have to understand the more the Europeans are threatened, they're not going to fight with atomic weapons. They're not going to fight with arsenal and you know all sorts of different tanks and other armaments. Heck no. They're going to fight with something much deadlier. GY Israel 1626 says, "No, you are right. I'm in the UK. It's not looking good." Yep. When worse comes to worse, and the Europeans know they're backed up, they're gonna do what's going. They're gonna come back to their senses. They're gonna say, "Well, you want to know what? I'd rather that if we have to live in a lowly state, I'd rather live in a lowly state and be able to have trade than be under." Would it be tyranny? I don't know. Oh, they would be definitely economically depressed. Because imagine being literally neo-colonized by the U.S. See, when you're losing resources, guess what you're going to start to do? You're going to start. This is something amazing. You're going to start self cannibalizing. You're going to be another bird, and you're going to start to eat other birds. Y'all know that that's how birds get down. That's how vultures get down. They'll eat other birds. Just let that sink in. When I'm on a walk with my German Shepherd, walking through the woods, that's what they do. That vulture goes down. They're eating other birds. That hawk goes down. They're eating that hawk. So with the principality, that's a foul bird. Come on now. Do y'all see where I'm going? Come on now. With the principality. Zoom to your doom says all the foul birds. Come on now. David says, Kara, sir, your commentaries of Europe are true as Europe is broke and losing power without resources. And we have another brother in the UK. They know what self cannibalization looks like. They're not trying to be eaten. So, what do you think these birds are going to get ready to do? It's going to be a bird fight. But remember, warfare isn't just about kinetic action, kinetic strikes. War is also information war. You're not going to be able, and they know this. You don't beat the U.S. by guns when this place has more guns per capita than any place on this earth. No, it's a lot more visceral. Hey, here's this. Hey, here's that. Hey, you see this. Hey, you see that. And then guess what? It'll be literally a social media campaign out of this world. How come Europe is on blackout? How come we can't get anything from Europe? They're on some crazy stuff. Well, what crazy stuff? You may see some of this stuff. Well, what are they saying? Because I'm going to tell you this, when that happens, see, all of these things, especially when you're looking at everything on social media, everything is government controlled. 177 in the chat. Why do you think I'm not going to be broadcast that many places? Why do you think even if you like, even if you share it, subscribe, do whatever, blah blah blah. I don't care. Look, I am not attractive to the algorithm. I'm sorry to let you all in a secret, family. I am not a paid agent. Because if I was a paid agent, I have this whole setup done. I'd have my little camera and everything else. I'd have the little nice fancy background and the little music and the little things going across there. Welcome to Covenant Awakenings. Yes, I'm so glad that you all are here to join me today. We have an exciting episode. I got my producers are telling me, okay, this is a word from our sponsor, blah, 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 blah. Drink coffee, blah, 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 buy this, blah, blah, blah. All right. Do you know what's been happening and this and that? Do you know? Oh, blah, blah. Wonk, 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 wonk. No. Sorry, I work for the Most High. listen, listen, Pastor Rick. He said, I heard COINTELPRO is hiring. COINTELPRO and ICE. Man. FBA, yeah. I'm foundational. FBA in the house. Deport them all. Deport everybody. H-1B is gone. I'm able to go back to my tech job. Deport everybody. I'm going back to my tribe. Catch a Blackfoot. What's your tribe? Nigga nah tribe. Heck to the no, 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 no. It's a part of Seminole over down here. My family is over, a little bit Port St. Lucie, southern area. I'm part of the nigga please, part of Okeechobee. You didn't hear about that? But you never heard of Breaking Winds Tribe? Oh man, look, we had the best food. Our pig feet is off the chain and Breaking Winds Tribe. Y'all saw the Falcons, right? Well, I said, how much for them Falcons so I can make me a traditional headdress because I am an a Blackfoot. My Indian name is Dances with Falcons. Did I do enough to earn my $30,000? Wait, you want to fly me out to that Eastern Mediterranean nation? Nah, I think that's a bit of a stretch. We're not cool like that just yet. I gotta groove my audience. Now I know that we're the people, but we're the people, and the promised land is in Utah. So when we look at the mathematical sciences of the 30-degree latitude by 25 and the 5-degree, and we flip and we fold and we inverse and we converse, it's going to be over there in that Eastern Mediterranean nation. Thank you. But Brother Karras, did you buy True Jerusalem? Oh, that was before that I had that check. I'm sorry. Oh, it's all inconclusive. Oh, wait. That's why I always say, look, just leave things alone and see how the Most High does everything in that season of reckoning. And that season of reckoning is literally, it's right here, it's right around the corner. And again, that's coming. Wait, 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 what were those YouTube? What were those YouTube commentators that had gone over to that Eastern Mediterranean nation? What did they only get it for? Was it that amount? What was it, 7,000 or something? That's a lot of money, man. I got ripped off. They only gave me $700. Only $700. $100 and a coupon for a free dozen original Krispy Kreme donuts. That ain't right. Uh, oh my goodness. And family, I'm just playing. I joke. Nobody sold me on out. If I was sold out, you would see me on bigger platforms because when you get sold out, you have to go on those big platforms, and then you have to be you gotta be clapping like Hercules, Hercules. Well, and then they have to have you disavow your past. Well, I'm glad that you saw the light because a couple years ago you were saying some pretty interesting things. What's changed right now? Oh well, right? They give you that canned speech. That canned speech. Um, there were just a couple different things that it wasn't adding up for me. Well, what wasn't adding up for me was, I was poor and I saw the light with a bigger bank account. So, oh, I could go into that one, but it's still a bit too early in the morning. Oh, heck. I'm just going to be ignorant. I'm sorry. Can I be ignorant? I haven't been ignorant in a while. So as I'm trying to sit here and go through this interview in a lot of pain, but they assured me that with medicated pads and wipes, I'll be good in a few weeks. But I'll never look at flagpoles the same. Because pageant allegiance to that flag was woo! Make you holler for some strange dollars. I said, can I at least get some baby oil? Oh, oh my goodness. I'm sorry, family. It's butt breaking 2.0. And the reality is that was just literally butt breaking for imaginary dollars. And it really is a shame that our people, because they don't know any better, they sell out quick. Pastor, Pastor Ray said, baby oil is out of stock. She was several cases of castor oil. Either that or black seed oil. Look. Oh, we can laugh, but the reality is this. You do have a situation where our people have been compromised because honestly, they don't trust the Most High. Plain and simple, they don't trust the Most High. Well, is it? Look, the reality is, look, we're not supposed to love this life. And I laugh because as the Most High has taken me through this journey has been tough and difficult. And I've gone through this journey understanding just how much the Most High loves us, just how much the Most High loves his people. But we have to understand how much we have been impacted and affected by our captors, our persecutors, our oppressors. People would ask, why do you still do this? Why do you still do that? Look, I say this because the Most High is still on the throne. I had posed the question to my good friend, and I said, what do you think would happen? I said, what do you think would happen? I said, let me give you the scenario. I said, who would be fighting to kick us out and who would be fighting to keep us in? Number one in the chat, I'm going to give you the same question I gave to my friend yesterday. Put a one in the chat if you think that I would say this, the Christian nationals, do you think that would be fighting to keep us in? Or do you think that the liberals would be fighting to keep us in? One, if it's the Christian nationals. Two, if it's the liberals that would be fighting to keep us in. I want to see this survey. I'm the Hebrew Bob Barker. One, Christian nationals fighting to keep us here, or the liberals fighting to keep us here. Number two, liberals fighting to keep us here. All right, I see a couple ones. I see a couple twos. Mm. You know, Sister Margaret, I believe you're correct. But I want to also talk about, because you're on the right track, but there's something that's a little bit more interesting with the liberals. Not only here's the thing. You also have to understand how this dragon operates. And I'm just going to give you my rationale to this. I believe that the Christian nationals would be fighting vehemently to keep us here. I do believe that the liberals will be fighting to have us leave. The reason I say that the liberals would be fighting to have us leave is because they would also see that as an opportunity to leave under cover of us. Because their mentality would be this. Well, we lost this place, but we could still reorganize and regroup on the continent. Because at the end of the day, as we would then be, number one, reinforced. And that reinforcement, I look at it like this. When you have something like that happening, especially from Europe, what would Europe say? Europe would say, well, we're not going to go over to the US as a fighting force. We're not. However, we do know the history of these people and part of this whole agenda, and we're also helping, they'll say this, we're also going to help in rectifying and promoting, this is a key word, and promoting Agenda 2063 by the African Union. Key words. Here are the key words. Part of that is equity and justice. Oh, equity and justice. Uh-oh. So what does that mean? That means that equity and justice, well, you will say, yeah, we're on it, because why? We'll do equity and justice as long as we continue to have access to resources. Sure, fine. Sounds good. But they know, if you noticed in that speech that they had by Mahama and all of the things that's going on, one of the key words is we know how to manufacture, we know how to innovate, we know how to deal with white supremacy globally. At that point in time, Europe is just like, whatever, we need funds, we need resources, we need food at a cheap cost, we need this at a cheaper cost. Okay, fine. We'll phase that along. But we need to have X, Y, and Z first. Bet. I didn't necessarily say with the mixed multitude. I didn't say that. With the liberals, I didn't say that. I would say that they would try to leave with us. So then that campaign would then be leveled in the UN. Hey, we'll do a cessation of hostilities. Well, boy, that's the ultimate ceasefire. Stand your ground, keep your ground. Russia is this, Russia is that. We'll take care. We will figure this all on out. But the biggest pressing factor is them over there. I'm not saying we like you, Russia, but what I am saying is we're going to need your help because we need to make sure that we can then bring over these African Americans. We're not too sure that they're Israelites either, but we want to make sure that if this is all caused because of them, you see how that goes? Then maybe, and they'll say, maybe this is the universe, right? They always like to say that. This is the universe telling us that we need to make sure that this equity and justice and blah, blah, blah. Your white Christian nationals say never. But they're U.S. citizens. All of a sudden, it'll be citizenship talk. Oh, they're U.S. citizens, and it's this and that, and it's that and this. Wait, I thought you were trying to take away everything, and we're illegal, and you already gone through the birthright citizenship and everything else. And if that's the case, then you have to reuphold everything. I'm just spitballing these analogies right here. I'm not saying that this is going to be exactly the case, but I am saying that don't you think that that provides a little bit of a great off ramp for a lot of this stuff, especially if you're in Europe and you took the L, because you're going to take the L. Europe is taking the L. They're taking the L pretty bad. They really are. Because you also have to understand when because Peekaboo says, I'm not sure if the liberals would have brains to see they need a partnership who would get the deals. Your partners. Understand the raw goods and the raw materials. I know that this is something that a lot of, even us in our community don't really get or understand or realize that even in America, yes, even in America, you actually import a lot of raw goods and materials from Africa. Sorry. I know that's hard for a lot of our people to understand that Africa is literally in the economic position of everything, including the United States. Raw goods and materials come from Africa. The United States isn't producing like that anymore. If you've had noticed, a lot of the foodstuffs that the US used to produce, they're not being produced anymore. A lot of the harvests, a lot of the crops are failing because they're not being produced like that anymore. Did anybody remember the whole beef thing, a couple weeks ago? Oh, they're going to get beef from Argentina. Okay. Don't we have enough beef here in the United States? So what do you think is going to be said? Hey, give them on up and then we'll make sure that you get this and you get that. Give them on up, and you'll have this and you'll have that. Even with that, they know can't do it. Now we can't let them just leave like that. Well, okay. Then you'll be under a siege. You'll be under a siege of sorts. Has that not already been kind of somewhat sort of happening with BRICS? Shoot, you're seeing that right now with the effects of them not buying into the US dollar system anymore. You think it's going to get any better here in the United States? Absolutely not. You know it's going to get worse. It is going to get worse. And then you have a Hearts and Mind campaign via social media that will then ask the younger people, well, what's happening? Why are they saying that in Europe? Why are these European countries saying that? Why do we have the UN on the streets? Now, of course, it won't be the way that I'm describing it. It'll be a lot more covert. Could this pirate operation be dealing with that? Does that somehow come into the mix? And the question is, that's a good question. The reality is, I don't know, but that is a good question. Is this on purpose to then create that mechanism? Okay, well, we have to crumble this from the inside. This creates that crumbling. Then once everybody's crumbled enough, then we could start rolling in the troops. I don't know. They want to mess with things, and guess what? We'll just cut them off, and it's going to be worse and worse and worse. I don't know. The reality is people can't eat ammo. I mean, they can in a high projectile fashion, which will then cause them to have a self-deletion. That's what I'm saying, Brother Todd. Exactly. Manufacturing shortages. And yes, silver is skyrocketing. It's crazy. Why are all the minerals and the resources skyrocketing? Because why? Because there's no more confidence in the system. So therefore, if you didn't know, your resources are on the continent. Hey, we just need to have our brothers and sisters come home. Well, that is easier said than done. It really is. Doesn't mean that it can't be done. Oh, I believe that it is going to be done. But I believe, though, it has to be more of a sting that honestly Africa can't do. This is going to be done via the EU. Watch and see. Because they're already trying to show you how they're formulating. If you would have told me this literally 3 years ago, I would have been like, no way. And literally, this fracturing is taking place in front of our eyes. Because if the EU has to then say, yeah, I agree with the United States on this and that, guess what? The EU is now in trouble with all the other nations. Oh, so you're going to side with blatant white supremacy, colonialism. They got checkmated. This is a checkmate. And the crazy thing is, the U.S. opened up the door. Do you think that these EU countries enjoy what the United States is doing? Absolutely not. The U.S. is literally destroying their image. Wait, the U.S., you're not supposed to do this. U.S., you're not supposed to do that. You going to say anything? Well, if you say anything, then it looks like you're not going to be very friendly, and it looks like you're not going to be our friend. So it looks like we're going to have to take Greenland. And we're going to take all the rights in Ukraine. And Russia's just sitting there like that's an issue that y'all have to take a look at, because we're going to be good with this side. This side's got the trillions. Y'all side, y'all going to have to do something with that one. This situation is very, very interesting. It's very critical. And the crazy thing is, it's actually playing out in front of us as we speak. The Most High is not mocked. And yes, the Europe is very mad. They're big mad. Yep, over Greenland and Ukraine. Exactly, Sister Betty. Because they know that if they get to Greenland, then it's only a hop, skip, and a jump. And they're basically balkanized via from, America and Russia. They're scrambling, they're panicking. They're trying to shake this war off as we speak. And I'm telling you, family, this thing is going to get crazy. No, Sean, I want you to. No, China is actually not the world's largest producer of gold. It is not. They'll tell you that they're the world's largest producer of gold. Guess what? Their gold doesn't come from China. Their gold comes from Africa. Just like they'll say they're the largest producers of chocolate. Get out of here. Of cocoa. Get out of here. No, they're not. It comes from Africa. Yeah, man, a lot of yeah, their gold comes from Africa. That's it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, even for our own people, we literally listen to their paradigm, and that is not even the truth. Crazy. No, you can't trust any of the information because it all comes from Africa. Oh my goodness. Comes from Africa. Yep. All the nations steal and covet Africa's resources. Absolutely. It all does. Why do you think they now want us back there? Because they now have a problem. And they're now recognizing the problem. They need us back. They're overrun with too many leeches and ticks and other parasites. Unreal. Man, they have so many gold mines up in Africa, it's not even funny. But again, if that's what's being said around the world, think about the power of information. It was never going to be on us. I told you that. It was never going to be on us. Well, but again, as Sean says, LOL, Africa needs a better communication network. If we knew, we would invest more on the continent. Well, why do you think they don't want you to know? Why do you think they don't want you to know? When I was there in the Ghanaian little area to get my Ghanaian card, half the place in there was a bunch of Chinese getting their cards. And I paid attention to it too because they're getting all their little forms and their passports and their documents. China, and it said People's Republic. Come on. My brother Asaph says my wedding ring. I found it through gold for the gold for under a banana plant. Yes, yes. There's so much gold so in those places you will trip over the gold. You'll literally trip over the gold, and you won't believe that it's gold because it's just right there. You can't even believe it. Oh dang, for real? Oh what? Do you think they want you to have access to it? Absolutely not. Well, that kind of gives you a little bit of insight of what I've been working on in my projects. But it's not really about the gold. It is about building. Because building with our brothers and sisters is building the trust that they deserve from us, that they expect of us, that they want from us. And literally, yeah, they do bare minimum in infrastructure. We're trying to continue to do bare minimum in infrastructure and take and take and take. Yeah, yeah. Because you want to know why? Because we don't want to be a presence there. We don't. By and large, as a people, we don't. I can't trust anything. I can't trust anything, but then they're regurgitating to you nonsense. And they are foreign European countries. When searching for mineral companies in Africa, I see the majority of them are foreign European countries. Yes, they are. And that's a shame. They take literally trillions of dollars of wealth a year. Trillions. And they don't even bother fixing the roads. Unreal. But hey, don't worry about it. I'm just a black man here in America. In this corner of the YouTube sphere that has not been Borgified or defiled for my come ups. I'm gonna be out for a couple of weeks. But when I am out, I may have a little bit of a different look. I may even be in a mansion in Hollywood Hills or Miami. I mean, it's closer to me in Miami. I may be a rap producer. Talk about take that, take that. As Pastor Rick Fletcher said, look, they're hiring. I thought I told you that we won't stop. Oh my goodness. I said, don't do it. How did they elevate this brother? Who is he? Well, this is Covenant Awakenings, and he was doing this thing. He started joking about hiring for Pro, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness! All of a sudden, this Negro got his own island. You know something's not right. Oh my goodness. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid. Yah forbid. All right, I'm sorry to be so ignorant, family. I really am. It was kind of funny though. If you'd like to support this channel, you may do so via $ COVAWK1. That's $ COVAWK1. Or you can give to PayPal or Zelle at msn.com. I'll have to see about a little special tomorrow. Tomorrow, Saturnalia. I don't celebrate Saturnalia, so I'm treating it as another normal day. I don't celebrate that. But for those I know that will be off for their day of Saturnalia celebrations, I'm not going to honor it by their syncretic name. It's syncretic. Yahusha's birthday was in the Feast of Tabernacles. That was a couple months ago, not today. Now, I know a couple of other figures that have a Tammuz or Sumerian Babylonian offshoot of December 25th. Oh, and Calvin Robinson asked, "What is the answer for the survey we took?" Well, the answer I said that would be that you would have more of the white Christian nationals fighting for us to stay than you would have white liberals. They would be fighting for us to leave. Because again, their fight for us to leave is actually based on the fight for, well, they know that they're going to leave. Thank you, Brother Jerry. Thank you for your gift. It is not for Christmas. Hallelujah. Thank you. They know that we're not going to up and leave like that, because you're still going to have that core component that's going to say, oh, we're Native Americans, we're this, we're that, we're this, we're that, FBA and all this other stuff. Don't listen to what are they going to say? They're going to say, don't listen to propaganda. If you notice, they built everything for don't listen to fake news. Because why? Because they know that this is going to be the the baseline of their effort that would heavily, it's not just the impact, that's a spiritual impact on these folks. That's the Jeremiah 16:19 moment. Oh, we've inherited lives, and in things there is no profit. So their fight for us to leave would be a very superficial fight. Well, when you go, can you take us with you? And then we can help you rebuild together. Whoa, whoa, no, 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 no. Hold on, time out. You're not helping us rebuild anything. You can build up our homes. You can build up the roads. You can build up the bridges. After we vet you. And that's going to be a heavy vet. Now, if they're coming through and they're crawling on hands and knees and faces all sorts of rang out from crying and everything else, and they're trembling. Oh God. Oh God. I'm sorry. It just it hit me in my spirit, in my core. I was praying about it. I said, Father, I don't want I don't want to be lied to. Oh, the Holy Spirit, and I'm learning it's the Ruach HaKodesh. I was convicted. I was convicted. Uh, yeah, that conviction's going to be there. I don't care what you need me to do. You can come with me as long as you're cleaning all the toilets. Sounds good. Let's go. Give me the Lysol and scrub brush. Let's go. You sure you're going to be cleaning all the toilets? Have you ever seen an African toilet? Listen, I don't care what it looks like. See, y'all don't understand. Deportations over on the continent is a lot easier than deportations here in the United States. Excuse me. Because people act like when we leave that this is going to be hunky dory to them. Actually, it's the worst. Actually, it's the opposite. Because remember, I told you they will be fighting for us to stay because when they know that we leave, these white nationals, these white Christian nationals know their shield is gone. That's what the issue is. And when we're gone, their protection is gone. You realize that, right? They know that we are their spiritual protection. Oh, Obadiah is in full effect. Do unto them as they've done unto so many. There you go. And again, what are they saying? Look, their sins have reached into heaven. They've literally opened on up and declared, I'm not going to apologize for anything. Oh, we would have healed Babylon. She refused it. She refused that healing. She refused that bomb. She refused. You heard it. I heard it. We all heard it. Sorry, I can't do anything for you. You said it yourself. Sorry, I can't do anything for you. All I know is when I leave, you could try to come. You could try to catch up. You can try. You can give it a college boy try. You can give it a college effort. But that's it. Because I'm going to say that if you think about this, and then they are threatened to be deported or returned back to the United States, especially when the United States is now in a UN quote unquote lockdown captivity. Remember, does anybody remember back in the 90s? Remember with Romania and Yugoslavia and all that other, the Baltics? Then you had a lot of the Eastern European, Serbs, Croats, all the other folks coming into the United States. Their biggest fear was to be returned back to that area because they knew that that was a war zone. It was a hot place. Milosevic and all that other good stuff going on, the Baltics. They weren't trying to go back, especially when they knew how hot that place was. I'm not trying to go back there. If I go back there, I'm going to die. Imagine that. Do you think that what would then happen? What do you think would then happen? People here would then try to do what they can to regionally come together. It will be literally a a situation where this place is broken up, just like the Baltics. Just like they had declared. But look, Yakoba covered this about like 2 or 3 years ago. But we couldn't see that happening at this time because things weren't literally lining up yet to see it happening. Now you're starting to see this happening. In reverse, I don't see anybody trying to go into DC to capture DC. No, that's not the case. What people would then do is then they would then carve out and section out and say, this is us, this is that. Look, how close do you think that is with Washington, Oregon, and California right now? That's close. That could be another $1 trillion or so in debt when you hit that 40 trillion plus level. You already have, I believe, New Hampshire even looking at that option. At the end of the day, the reality is debt costs lives. And when you are then a nation that is now having to deal with reconstituting itself, well, you're not going to have the necessary resources that you once had. Folks will not be able to eat. I think that's the best way to state it. People won't be eating. People will be getting deleted. Orphanages will be showing American children rocking in bombed out areas with cradles. Or just sitting there staring at the top of the ceiling. Does anybody still remember those images in their heads back in the day? Save this child. Save them from a future of blah, 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 blah. And that's how they were having all these adoptions and anybody and anything else. Does anybody remember that? With them being so skinny and, malnourished. And people act like that'll never be here in the United States. Uh yeah, it can. Because I guarantee you that when you start to see this happening, how quick do you think that they'll shut off industry? They'll shut off industry. The only thing they'll probably keep on is literally the machines, for real. for only 30 cents a day. And then I guess in our case, for only 30 CD a day, you can help a poor child to try to have a hope in the future. That's why people that actually understand how things are happening, they actually like get it. And that's what makes them sorely afraid in this time. I'm not the only one that gets it. Please keep that in mind, family. I'm not the only one that gets this, but I can actually vocalize this and articulate this and show you how this path and this road to war, how it's leading. That's what they're afraid of. Man, I've been on here for a minute. Let me get up on out of here. I got some calls to make on the continent. Brother, do you see what is going on? You are 17th region in Ghana. All right. They going to give us that 17th region passport? That's what I'm asking for. Why do you think they're trying to now get rid of dual citizenship? Ta-da! Did I say that? I said wait for it. Ta-da! Because they saw the opportunities that was getting ready to come our way. That's how the intelligence apparatus works. They know before we know. And if you didn't know, you actually have a hope in the future that's actually shinier than theirs. Because you don't see that happening for them from any European countries. Do you see that? Do you all understand that? Oh yeah, no, I can't mention that place. Pastor Rick Fletcher, but yeah, that's what I said. That would never hold up. That's not gonna hold up. It was a nice try, but we already knew. It was a scare tactic, but we already knew. All right, family. Again, I got to get up on out of here. Thank you again for your prayers, your support. Most High willing, I'll be back on tomorrow. I'll give you all a little bit of time so you know those folks. $7,000 if you mention. 7,000. Pastor Rick Fletcher says 7,000 if you mention it. With an all expense paid trip. I don't know, man. Look, I've been to Jordan. That was close enough for me. There's nothing on out there. It's golly. Oh my goodness. And yeah, you're right, Betty. Europe is not opening the door for them to return at all. That's crazy. So, as much as things are not looking the greatest right now, understand we're literally in the driver's seat. We're literally in the driver's seat, family. So, with that said, be blessed because you are blessed and highly favored because the Most High is literally in control. and we get a chance to see how this awesome movie plays out in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Hallelujah. So with that said, Shalom, Salama, Siemi, Shalom, peace and blessings, Yasharel.